My name is Paige Mitchell. I'm 37 years old, and I'm about to tell you the story of how my own family tried to destroy me, how they hunted me like I was nothing more than a problem to solve, and how my 16-year-old daughter saved us all. I'm sitting in my small apartment right now, looking at the legal papers spread across my kitchen table. 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. What I'm about to share with you, it still makes my hands shake when I think about it. It starts with an anniversary party. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary, to be exact. The kind of event my family lives for. Expensive, perfect, designed to show the world how successful we are. Or how successful they are. I stopped being part of that we the day I filed for divorce. I'm driving to my childhood home, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles are white. The familiar streets of Westfield Heights blur past. Manicured lawns, wrought iron gates, houses that cost more than most people make in a lifetime. This used to be my world. Now it feels like a foreign country where I no longer speak the language. Through my windshield, I can see the mansion where I grew up. All those twinkling lights, fancy cars lined up like soldiers in formation. Mercedes, BMWs, a few Teslas thrown in to show how progressive my parents' friends are. My Honda Civic, with its dented bumper and faded paint, looks pathetic next to them. But I'm not here for me. I'm here for Noah, my 8-year-old son, the only good thing that came from my marriage to David. My chest feels tight as I walk up the familiar brick pathway. The roses my mother tends with obsessive care are in perfect bloom, their scent mixing with the summer evening air. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and every family gathering feels like walking into enemy territory. They smile at me, but their eyes are calculating, always calculating. The house smells like expensive perfume and champagne when I step inside. Crystal chandeliers, the ones my mother imported from Italy, throw warm light across the marble foyer, and I can hear laughter coming from the dining room. Classical music plays softly from hidden speakers, the kind of refined background noise that whispers money without saying it outright. My mother, Helen, glides toward me in her silver Chanel dress. She's 65, but looks 50. All sharp angles and practiced smiles. Every hair is perfectly in place. Her makeup flawless, despite the July heat. She embraces me with arms that feel like they're made of ice. Her perfume, something French and expensive, overwhelming my senses. "Paige, darling," she says, her voice carrying that slight accent she affects when company is present. "You look tired. Are you eating enough? You've lost weight." It's her favorite greeting for me these days, a reminder that I'm not the polished daughter she raised, that I'm failing at the basic task of taking care of myself. The words are wrapped in motherly concern, but I hear the real message. You're not good enough anymore. "I'm fine, Mom. Where's Noah?" "Oh, he's in the garden with your father and David. They're having such a wonderful time together. Noah caught 3 fireflies already. Robert is teaching him about patience and observation." My stomach drops at the mention of David. Through the French doors that lead to the back terrace, I can see my son running across the perfect lawn, his small form darting between the carefully maintained flower beds. He's wearing the little button-down shirt I bought him at Target, and it looks so cheap next to the expensive casual wear everyone else is sporting. My father, Robert, stands near the gazebo, his silver hair gleaming in the evening light. Even at 67, he commands attention. Tall, distinguished, wearing a polo shirt that probably costs more than my monthly grocery budget. He's gesturing animatedly as he tells Noah something, and I can see my son's face light up with wonder. David stands nearby, looking like he stepped out of a magazine in his expensive linen suit. There's a blonde woman next to him I don't recognize, her hand resting casually on his arm. She's younger than me, maybe early 30s, with the kind of effortless beauty that comes from good genes and expensive maintenance. She's laughing at something David said, and the sound carries across the garden like wind chimes. "Who's that with David?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady, but I can hear the tremor in it. "Oh, that's Rebecca. She's a child psychologist, very accomplished. She's very good with Noah. He adores her already? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. They've already found my replacement, not just as David's wife, but as Noah's mother. I watch as Rebecca kneels down to Noah's level, helping him examine something in the grass. My son looks up at her with trust and excitement, and I feel like I'm watching my own life being erased. I force myself to look away and scan the room. The dining room is set with my mother's finest china. The Waterford crystal she inherited from her mother. The sterling silver that gets polished once a month whether it needs it or not. Flower arrangements that probably cost more than my rent create perfect centerpieces on the mahogany table that seats 20. The guests mill around with practiced ease, these people who've known each other for decades. Country club members, business associates, old family friends who've watched me grow up and are now watching me fall apart. They nod politely when they see me, but conversations pause when I approach and resume when I move away. I look up at the grand staircase, the one I used to slide down as a child until my mother threatened to send me to boarding school. Kristen, my daughter from my first marriage, sits on the top step. She's 16, beautiful, with dark hair like mine, and eyes that see everything. Unlike everyone else at this party, she looks genuinely upset. Really upset. She catches my eye and shakes her head slightly, a gesture so small anyone else would miss it. Something's wrong. Something beyond the obvious wrongness of watching my ex-husband parade his new life in front of my son. The dining room buzzes with conversation as we take our seats around the massive table. I'm placed between my Aunt Margaret, who's never missed an opportunity to remind me of my failures, and my cousin James, who made his fortune in tech and loves to talk about disruption and innovation while completely missing the irony of his own conventional lifestyle. "Paige, dear," Aunt Margaret says, her voice carrying that particular tone of false concern that runs in our family. "I heard about your little apartment in Riverside. Such a different neighborhood from where you grew up." "It's fine, Aunt Margaret. Noah and I are happy there." "Oh, I'm sure you're making the best of it," she continues, cutting into her perfectly prepared salmon. "But don't you think it's time to consider coming home? Your parents have that lovely guest house that's just sitting empty." The guest house. The beautiful, separate living space behind the main house that comes with built-in surveillance and zero privacy, where they could monitor my every move and decision. "I like our independence," I say, taking a sip of wine that probably costs more than I spend on groceries in a week. James leans in from my other side. "Independence is overrated, Paige. Sometimes you need to swallow your pride and accept help from family. That's what family is for." The conversations flow around me like water around a stone. Vacations to European villas I can't afford, charity galas I'm not invited to, business deals and social events that represent a world I'm no longer part of. My mother talks about the art auction she attended last week, where she spent more on a single painting than I make in a year. My father discusses his latest investment property with his brother, numbers floating through the air that make my head spin. I try to focus on Noah, visible through the French doors as he continues his firefly hunt with single-minded determination. Rebecca has joined him now, and she moves with the easy confidence of someone who's comfortable in this world. She probably grew up in a house like this, went to the right schools, knows which fork to use for the salad course without having to think about it. My father, Robert, stands at the head of the table, his presence commanding immediate attention. The conversations die down as he raises his champagne glass, the crystal catching the light from the chandelier above. "Helen and I want to thank you all for being here tonight," he begins, his voice carrying the authority of a man who built a business empire from nothing and never lets anyone forget it. 40 years of marriage. It's been quite a journey. We've built something beautiful together. Not just our relationship, but our family, our legacy. Everyone claps politely. I force a smile, but something cold settles in my stomach. The way he emphasizes legacy makes my skin crawl. "We've been thinking a lot about the future lately," he continues, and his eyes find mine across the table. There's something predatory in his gaze that makes my blood run cold. About what we want to leave behind for the next generation. About responsibility. About ensuring that the values we've built this family on continue long after we're gone. My heart starts pounding. I glance toward the garden where Noah is still playing, innocent and unaware of whatever storm is brewing inside this house. Rebecca is teaching him how to cup his hands to catch fireflies without hurting them. And he's listening with the intense concentration that only 8-year-olds can muster. David stands up, his lawyer smile perfect and cold. He's changed into a fresh shirt, I notice, and his hair is styled just so. He looks like he's about to deliver a closing argument that will change someone's life forever. Actually, Robert, this seems like the perfect time to share our news. The room goes quiet, 23 people holding their breath, waiting for the show to begin. I can feel every eye on me, and I know that whatever's coming next is going to destroy me. Rebecca and I are engaged. The words hang in the air for a moment before the room erupts in congratulations. Glasses clink, women squeal with delight, men slap David on the back. My champagne glass slips from my numb fingers and shatters against my plate, the sound cutting through the celebration like a scream. "What?" I whisper, but my voice is lost in the noise. But David isn't done. He raises his hand for silence, his smile growing wider. "And we've been talking with Robert and Helen about what's best for Noah. With my practice taking off, I just made partner, as many of you know, and Rebecca's background in child psychology, we think it might be time to revisit our custody arrangement." The words hit me like a physical blow. I can't breathe. Every face around the table is watching me, with expressions ranging from pity to something that looks dangerously like satisfaction. Some of them knew. They all knew. My mother's voice cuts through the ringing in my ears, sweet as poisoned honey. "Paige, sweetheart, you've been struggling so much since the divorce. The apartment, the financial pressures, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Maybe it's time to consider what's truly best for Noah. He needs stability, structure, opportunities we can provide." "What are you talking about?" I managed to say, my voice barely audible. David leans forward, and I can see the predator behind his handsome face. "We're talking about full custody, Paige. Primary residence with Rebecca and me, weekend visitation for you. Noah deserves to grow up in a stable environment, with parents who can provide for him properly." The room spins around me. I can see Noah through the window, still chasing fireflies, still innocent, still believing that his world is safe and predictable. In a few minutes, he'll come inside for dessert, and his entire life will have changed without him knowing it. I stand up so fast, my chair scrapes against the hardwood floor, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent room. "Excuse me. I need air. I need space. I need to get away from their staring eyes and false concern and the suffocating weight of their judgment." I'm stumbling toward the bathroom, my legs feeling like water, when Kristen appears in the hallway. She grabs my arm with surprising strength for a 16-year-old, her eyes wild with fear and anger. "Mom, we need to go. Now." "Kristen, not now. I can't. They've been planning this for weeks," she whispers urgently, pulling me into the powder room and locking the door behind us. "I heard them talking. They're going to file for emergency custody tomorrow morning. They have documents, Mom. Papers that make you look unfit." The small bathroom feels like it's closing in on me. I lean against the marble sink for support, my reflection in the mirror showing a woman who looks like she's been hit by a truck. My carefully applied makeup is smudged, my hair disheveled, my face pale with shock. "What kind of documents?" Kristen's voice drops to barely a whisper. "Financial records showing you're behind on rent, which you're not, by the way, but they made it look like you are. Photos of you leaving Dr. Peterson's office, the therapist you saw after the divorce. They're going to claim you're having a mental breakdown. My therapist, the one person I thought I could trust to help me work through the trauma of my marriage ending, even that safe space has been violated. There's more," Kristen continues, tears forming in her eyes. They have a recording of you crying in your car outside Noah's school last week. Remember when you were having that panic attack? Grandma hired a private investigator. They've been watching you, Mom, following you. The memory hits me like a physical blow. Last Tuesday, I'd sat in my car after dropping Noah off, overwhelmed by the weight of everything. The divorce, the financial pressure, the loneliness. I'd cried for maybe 5 minutes before pulling myself together and driving to my job at the insurance office. I thought I was alone. I thought I was safe. I feel like I'm drowning. These people, my parents, my ex-husband, people who claim to love me, they've been watching me, hunting me, collecting evidence to use against me while I fought every day just to survive. Why are you telling me this? I ask, my voice cracking. Kristen's jaw sets with determination that reminds me of myself at her age, before the world taught me to doubt everything. Because you're my mom, because this is wrong, and because... She pulls out her phone, showing me a voice recording app with a red recording indicator. Because I've been recording everything. My heart stops. What do you mean everything? The family meeting last week that you weren't invited to. Grandpa talking about how Noah's trust fund should stay in the family. Meeting with people who understand proper values. Grandma saying you were always the weak link. David and Rebecca planning how to present you as an unfit mother. She swipes through the files on her phone. I've got hours of recordings, Mom. Them admitting they hired the private investigator. David talking about the offshore accounts he never told you about during the divorce. Rebecca discussing how to bond with Noah quickly so he'll prefer her to you. The offshore accounts. During our divorce, David claimed he was barely getting by, that his law practice was struggling. I settled for far less alimony than I deserved, because I believed him, because I trusted him. There's more, Kristen says, her voice getting stronger. I found documents in Grandpa's study, bank statements, property deeds, financial records. David's been hiding millions, Mom. Millions that should have been part of the divorce settlement. I stare at my daughter, this brave, brilliant young woman who's risked everything to protect me. She's been living in this house for weeks, pretending to be the dutiful granddaughter while secretly gathering evidence of their betrayal. Kristen, you don't understand what you're risking. Your grandparents have been paying for your private school, your college fund. They've been paying to control us, she interrupts. All of us. Even you, Mom. That's why you married David in the first place, isn't it? Because they approved of him? The question hangs in the air like a challenge. I look at my reflection again, seeing not just the woman I've become, but the girl I used to be. Eager to please, desperate for approval, willing to sacrifice my own happiness to meet their expectations. We need to get Noah and leave, I say finally, before they realize what we know. Kristen nods, but there's fear in her eyes now. Mom, they're not just going to let us walk away. They've invested too much in this plan. We move through the house like ghosts, staying in the shadows, avoiding the main rooms where the party continues. I can hear laughter from the dining room, the clink of glasses, the sound of people enjoying themselves while my world crumbles around me. The back staircase, the one the staff used to use when my parents entertained, leads us to the rear of the house. Through the servants' entrance, we can slip into the garden without being seen. The moon is full tonight, casting silver light across the perfectly manicured lawn. We move through the shadows, staying close to the hedge that separates the garden from the neighbor's property. Through the French doors, I can see the dinner party continuing, but the mood has changed. Guests lean in closer, whispering. David gestures animatedly, while Rebecca nods sympathetically, her hand on his arm. They're already spinning the story, the unstable ex-wife who ruined the evening, the concerned father who just wants what's best for his son, the selfless new stepmother who's willing to take on the burden of raising another woman's troubled child. Noah sits alone on the garden swing, his earlier enthusiasm dampened by confusion. He's 8 years old with my sensitive heart and David's sharp mind. He knows something's wrong, but doesn't understand what. His small legs pump back and forth, but his heart isn't in it anymore. Noah, baby, come here, I call softly from the shadows. His face lights up the moment he sees me, that pure joy that only children can feel. He runs across the grass, his dress shoes slipping slightly on the dew-dampened lawn. I kneel and wrap him in the fiercest hug, breathing in the scent of his hair, grass and summer evening, and that indefinable smell that belongs only to my child. "Mommy, why did you leave dinner? Daddy said you weren't feeling well, but Grandma said you were just being dramatic." The innocent comment cuts through me like a knife. Already they're poisoning him against me, making him doubt his own perceptions. I force lightness into my voice. "I'm okay, sweetheart, but I think it's time for us to head home." "But Grandpa said I could sleep over tonight. He wants to show me his old baseball cards in the morning, and Rebecca said she'd make French toast. She knows how to make it with cinnamon and everything." The innocent comment hits me like a physical blow. They were planning to keep him overnight. Tomorrow, when I came to pick him up, they would have served me with papers. Made me look like the unstable mother trying to kidnap her own child. Kristen kneels beside us, her face serious but kind. "Noah, remember that adventure game we used to play when you were little, where we had to escape from the castle?" His eyes widen with understanding and excitement. "The one where we're secret agents?" "Yeah, buddy. We need to get to the car without the castle guards seeing us. Can you do that?" Noah nods solemnly, completely buying into the game. He's always been imaginative, always ready for an adventure. I pray that someday he'll remember this as a game, not as the night his family tried to steal him away from his mother. As we move toward my car, staying low and quiet, my phone buzzes with a text from David. "Where did you go? We need to talk. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The threat is barely concealed. Even now, even when he knows I know, he's trying to control the narrative. "What exactly did you record?" I ask Kristen urgently as we reach the edge of the property. "Everything. Grandma and Grandpa talking about how they never thought you were good enough for our family. How the divorce was the best thing that ever happened because now they can fix their mistake. David and Rebecca planning to paint you as an unstable mother who can't provide for Noah. Grandpa talking about how Noah's trust fund, the one you don't even know about, should stay in the family. A trust fund. There's a trust fund for Noah that I don't even know about. How much of my son's life has been planned without my knowledge? We reach my Honda just as the front door opens. My father's silhouette fills the doorway, backlit by the warm light of the party. He's changed out of his casual clothes into a dark suit, and something about his posture tells me he's been expecting this. "Paige? Where are you taking Noah?" His voice carries the authority of a man used to being obeyed, the tone that made boardrooms full of executives tremble. But I'm not in a boardroom, and I'm not his employee. "Home," I say, buckling Noah into his car seat with hands that won't stop shaking. "I'm taking my son home." "Get in. Now," I tell Kristen. But she's already moving toward the passenger seat. "Mom, there's something else," she says as she climbs in. "The recording from tonight, I got David admitting that he's been hiding assets from the divorce settlement, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, properties in Rebecca's name. A whole financial empire you never knew existed." I start the engine as my father approaches the car, his face a mask of controlled fury. In the rearview mirror, I can see other figures emerging from the house. David, Rebecca, my mother. They're all watching, all calculating their next move. Robert taps on the window with his university ring, the sound sharp against the glass. "Paige, open this door. We need to discuss this like adults." Through the glass, his voice is muffled, but the threat is clear. Behind him, David is on his phone, probably calling his lawyer or the police or both. "We are not running away," I say, loud enough for my children to hear. "We are going home." The Honda pulls away from the estate, leaving Robert Mitchell standing alone in the driveway, his hands clenched into fists. In the rearview mirror, I watch the house, my childhood home, the place where I learned to walk and talk and dream, disappear into the darkness. Back in my small apartment, the contrast to my parents' mansion is stark. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for a table. But it's mine. It's ours. And tonight, It feels like the safest place in the world. Noah falls asleep on the couch, exhausted by the evening's drama. I cover him with the quilt my grandmother made, the one thing I managed to save from my marriage. His face is peaceful in sleep, unaware that his entire world has shifted beneath him. Kristen sits at the kitchen table with her laptop, downloading the audio files to multiple cloud storage accounts. Her fingers fly across the keyboard with the efficiency of someone who's grown up with technology, creating backup after backup of the evidence that might save us. "You know they're going to come after us hard now," she says without looking up. "Grandpa doesn't like to lose." I'm pacing like a caged animal, my bare feet silent on the worn carpet. I know. David's a lawyer. My parents have money and connections. They know judges, police officers, politicians. What do I have? Kristen finally looks up from her laptop, and I see something in her eyes that takes my breath away. It's not fear or uncertainty. It's fierce determination, the kind that can move mountains. You have the truth. And you have me. I stop pacing and really look at my daughter. This brave, intelligent young woman who chose to stand up for what was right, even when it meant betraying her own grandparents. She's risking everything for us. And she's doing it without hesitation. Kristen, you don't understand what you're risking. Your grandparents have been paying for your private school, your college fund. They could cut you off completely. They've been paying to control us, she interrupts, her voice gaining strength. All of us, even you, Mom. That's why you married David in the first place, isn't it? Because they approved of him. The question hangs in the air like a challenge I can't avoid. I sink into a chair across from her, suddenly feeling every one of my 37 years. I was 24 when I met your father, your biological father, Tom. I haven't said his name out loud in years. My parents hated him, said he wasn't good enough, that he'd drag me down. He was a teacher, made decent money, but nothing spectacular. He loved books and hiking and quiet Sunday mornings. He made me laugh. I pause, lost in painful memories I've tried to bury. When that relationship ended, when I let them convince me it would never work, I was devastated. I thought I'd lost my only chance at real love. When I met David 2 years later, he was everything they wanted. Successful, from a good family, impressive on paper, ambitious. My parents loved him immediately. But it wasn't love for you. Number? It wasn't. I convinced myself that their approval meant something, that stability was more important than passion. I thought I could learn to love David the way I loved your father. I thought marriage would make those feelings grow. But it didn't. Number, it didn't. And now Noah is paying the price for my mistakes. Kristen reaches across the table and takes my hand. Her skin is warm, real, grounding me in the present moment. Noah isn't paying for anything. You're fighting for him. That's what real mothers do. My phone rings, the sound sharp in the quiet apartment. David's name appears on the screen. I stare at it, letting it ring once, twice, 3 times before answering. David. Paige, you've made a serious mistake tonight. His voice is cold, controlled, the tone he uses in court when he's demolishing a witness. Leaving with Noah like that, disrupting the family dinner, it's exactly the kind of erratic behavior that proves our point. What point is that, David? That you're unstable. That Noah needs a more stable home environment. Robert and Helen are filing for grandparents' rights first thing Monday morning, and I'm petitioning for full custody. After tonight's performance, no judge will side with you. I close my eyes, feeling the familiar weight of defeat settling on my shoulders. But then I open them and see Kristen watching me with fierce pride and determination. David, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I know about the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. I know about the properties you've hidden in Rebecca's name. I know about the money you've been stealing from Noah's college fund, the one you set up without telling me. Silence on the other end of the line. And I have proof. You're bluffing, but his voice lacks conviction now. Try me. I hang up and look at Kristen. Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. We're going to war with our own family. They stopped being family the moment they decided to destroy you to get what they wanted. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in family court, and I've never been more terrified in my life. The room is cold and sterile, with harsh fluorescent lights that make everyone look sick and worn wooden benches that have seen too many families torn apart. The walls are painted institutional beige, and there's a smell of old coffee and fear that seems to permeate everything. On one side of the courtroom, David sits with his expensive legal team, 3 lawyers in $1,000 suits who bill more per hour than I make in a week. Rebecca sits beside him, dressed like the perfect stepmother-to-be in a conservative navy dress and pearls. She keeps her eyes downcast, playing the role of the reluctant but dutiful woman who's willing to take on the burden of raising another woman's child. My parents occupy the front row behind them, their faces masks of righteous anger. My mother wears the same expression she used to wear when I came home past curfew. Disappointed, but not surprised. My father looks like a man who's used to getting his way and can't quite believe he's being challenged. On the other side, I sit with Maria Santos, a family law attorney I found through a recommendation from my therapist. She's wearing a department store suit that probably cost less than David's tie, but her eyes are sharp and determined. She's taken this case pro bono, she told me, because she believes in fighting for mothers who are being systemically destroyed by wealthy ex-husbands. Kristen insisted on being here, sitting in the gallery behind us. She's dressed in her best outfit, a simple black dress that makes her look older than 16. Her presence gives me strength, reminding me that this fight isn't just about me anymore. Judge Patricia Wong looks tired, like she's seen too many families destroy themselves in her courtroom. She's been on the bench for 20 years, Maria told me, and she has a reputation for seeing through manipulation and grandstanding. David's lead attorney, a silver-haired man named Charles Hartwell, presents their case first. He's smooth, polished, the kind of lawyer who makes juries believe anything he says. Your Honor, Mr. Garrett has documented evidence of Ms. Mitchell's declining mental health, her precarious financial situation, and her increasingly unstable behavior. We have evidence of her inability to maintain stable housing, her documented mental health issues, and her concerning behavior at family gatherings. He presents a thick folder of documents, photos, bank statements, medical records that should have been confidential. Mr. Garrett has remarried a woman with extensive experience in child psychology. Together, they can provide the stability and resources that young Noah needs and deserves. David nods gravely, playing the concerned father perfectly. He's even managed to produce a few tears, dabbing at his eyes with a handkerchief. Furthermore, Hartwell continues, the boy's grandparents have expressed their willingness to provide additional support and stability. They have established a trust fund for Noah's education and future, resources that will ensure he has every opportunity to succeed. Judge Wong turns to our side of the courtroom. Miss Santos, your response? Maria stands, placing her tablet on the podium. She's half the size of Hartwell, but when she speaks, her voice fills the room. Your Honor, we'd like to present audio evidence that completely contradicts these claims and reveals the true motivation behind this custody challenge. She presses play on her tablet, and the courtroom fills with my father's voice, recorded by Kristen during a family meeting I wasn't invited to. The boy stands to inherit significant assets through his mother's side of the family, not just from us, but from Helen's family trust. If we can establish that Paige is unfit, and David has primary custody, we can ensure that money stays where it belongs, with people who understand its value and won't squander it on bleeding heart causes. The color drains from David's face. My mother's composed mask cracks for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. My father's voice continues, Paige was always weak. Even as a child, she never had the backbone necessary to be part of this family. This divorce just proves what we've always known. She doesn't have what it takes to handle real responsibility. Maria lets the recording play for another few seconds before stopping it. Your Honor, this is not about what's best for Noah Mitchell Garrett. This is about money and control. The petitioners have systematically tried to undermine Ms. Mitchell's parenting and financial stability, while hiding assets that should have been used for the child's support and education. She presents a new set of documents: bank statements, property records, investment portfolios that Kristen helped research using the leads from the recorded conversations. We also have evidence that Mr. Garrett has been systematically hiding assets from the divorce settlement: offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, properties purchased in his fiancé's name, investment accounts that were never disclosed during the divorce proceedings. David's attorney whispers urgently in his client's ear, but David's composure is cracking. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "Your Honor," Maria continues, "Ms. Mitchell has been struggling financially not because she's incapable of providing for her son, but because her ex-husband has been systematically hiding the assets that should have been supporting their child." She presents more evidence: records of the private investigator, photos taken without consent, evidence of the conspiracy to make me appear unfit. David stands abruptly, his lawyer's composure finally cracking. "Your Honor, that recording was obtained illegally." "Mr. Garrett, you will speak through your attorney or not at all," Judge Wong says sharply. Maria responds immediately. "Your Honor, the recording was made by the defendant's daughter, a minor, in what she reasonably believed to be a family meeting. She wasn't trespassing or using surveillance equipment. She was simply present in her grandparents' home when they chose to discuss their plans to manipulate this court." Judge Wong studies the documents, her expression growing more severe with each page. The courtroom is silent except for the sound of papers rustling and the quiet hum of the ventilation system. "Mr. Garrett, I'm going to ask you directly. Are the assets detailed in these documents yours?" David's attorney starts to object, but David silences him with a gesture. The mask has slipped completely now, revealing the man I lived with for 5 years. Arrogant, controlling, used to getting his way through manipulation and intimidation. "Some of them, yes." "And were they disclosed during your divorce proceedings?" A long pause. David looks at his lawyer, at Rebecca, at my parents. None of them can help him now. "No, Your Honor." "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, did you hire a private investigator to gather information about your daughter?" My father's jaw tightens, the vein in his temple throbbing the way it used to when I was a child and had disappointed him. He looks around the courtroom as if searching for an escape route, but there's nowhere to run from the truth. "We were concerned about our grandson's welfare." "That's a yes or no question, Mr. Mitchell." The silence stretches for what feels like an eternity. My mother reaches for my father's hand, but he pulls away, his pride wounded by being cornered like this in public. "Yes." Judge Wong sets down the documents and looks around the courtroom with an expression of pure disgust. Her 20 years on the bench have clearly shown her every kind of family dysfunction, but this seems to have struck a particular nerve. "In 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such a calculated attempt to manipulate the family court system. This court exists to protect the best interests of children, not to serve the financial interests of adults who view children as assets to be controlled." She turns her attention to David, who looks like he's about to be sick. "Mr. Garrett, you will immediately begin proceedings to properly disclose and divide all assets from your marriage. The child support you owe Ms. Mitchell, based on your actual income and assets, will be calculated retroactively. I'm ordering a forensic accountant to review all your financial records going back 5 years. David's face goes white. Rebecca shifts uncomfortably beside him, probably realizing that her future husband is about to face serious legal consequences. "Furthermore, Mr. Garrett, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association for investigation. Hiding assets in a divorce proceeding while simultaneously petitioning for custody on financial grounds suggests a pattern of behavior that raises serious questions about your fitness to practice law." The words hit David like physical blows. His career, his reputation, everything he's built. It's all crumbling around him. Judge Wong turns to my parents, her expression growing even colder. "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, your petition for grandparents' rights is denied. Furthermore, I am ordering supervised visitation only until you can demonstrate that you will not use your relationship with your grandson to undermine his mother or interfere with this court's orders. My mother starts to protest, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. Your Honor, surely you can't. I can, and I will. The evidence shows a deliberate conspiracy to remove a child from his mother's care through manipulation and false evidence. That is not the behavior of loving grandparents concerned for a child's welfare. Judge Wong's voice grows stronger, more authoritative. Ms. Mitchell, the court finds no evidence of the instability or unfitness alleged by the petitioners. Your custody arrangement remains unchanged, with the addition of substantially increased child support that Mr. Garrett will now be required to pay based on his actual financial circumstances. She looks directly at me, and for the first time in months, I see something in an authority figure's eyes that I haven't seen in a long time. Respect. Furthermore, Ms. Mitchell, you are entitled to seek damages for the emotional distress and financial harm caused by this fraudulent custody challenge. I would strongly advise you to consult with your attorney about civil remedies. The gavel comes down with a sound like thunder. Thank you, Your Honor, I whisper, my voice barely audible over the ringing in my ears. In the courthouse hallway, the fluorescent lights seem brighter, the air cleaner. People move around us, other families dealing with their own crises, lawyers hurrying to their next cases, court personnel going about their daily routines. But for me, the world has shifted on its axis. David approaches me as I'm gathering my things, and he looks like a man whose world has just collapsed. His expensive suit is wrinkled now, his perfect hair disheveled. The confident lawyer who walked into that courtroom has been replaced by someone desperate and scared. Paige, I never meant for it to go this far. I look at him with something close to pity. Yes, you did, David. You all did. You planned every detail, from the private investigator to the fake financial documents to the announcement at the anniversary party. The only thing you didn't plan for was Kristen. I start to walk away, then pause. There's something I need to say, something I need him to understand. Noah still loves you. Despite everything, despite what you've put him through, he loves you. Don't make me explain to him why his father chose money over family. David watches me walk away, standing alone as his former in-laws and fiancé studiously avoid his gaze. Rebecca has already distanced herself, talking quietly with someone on her phone about reassessing the situation. My parents stand near the elevators, whispering urgently to each other, probably planning their next move. But I don't care about their next move anymore. For the first time in years, I'm not afraid of what they might do to me. Outside on the courthouse steps, bright sunlight warms my face. It's a beautiful day in late July, the kind of summer day that makes you believe anything is possible. Kristen waits with Noah, who runs to me the moment he sees me. I lift him into a fierce hug, feeling his small arms wrap around my neck like a lifeline. Mommy, are we going home? Yes, baby, we're going home. Kristen falls into step beside us as we walk down the courthouse steps. She's grown up so much in these past few weeks, forced to become an adult earlier than any 16-year-old should have to. But there's something different about her now. A confidence, a strength that comes from knowing she did the right thing when it mattered most. So, what happens now? She asks. Now we figure out what our life looks like when we're not fighting to keep it. Maria Santos catches up with us, her briefcase in one hand and a huge smile on her face. Paige, that was one of the most satisfying cases I've ever won. How are you feeling? Exhausted, relieved, terrified. I laugh, surprising myself. All at the same time. That's normal. You've been through hell, but you came through it. And now you have real options. The back child support alone is going to change your financial situation dramatically. Plus, we can absolutely pursue civil damages for what they put you through. I nod, but my mind is elsewhere. I'm thinking about the apartment Noah and I will go home to tonight, the one that felt so small and shabby compared to my parents' mansion. It doesn't feel small anymore. It feels like freedom. 6 months later, I'm sitting in our new house. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch in a good school district, watching Noah play in the backyard. He's got a friend over, a boy from his new school who doesn't know anything about custody battles or family drama. They're building a fort out of cardboard boxes, their laughter carrying across the lawn. The financial settlement from the divorce review was substantial. David had been hiding even more than we initially discovered, and the judge was not amused. I can afford this house now. Can't afford to work just one job instead of two. I can afford to breathe. Kristen is applying to colleges, her grades having improved dramatically since she no longer has to pretend to be someone she's not around my parents. She wants to study journalism, she tells me, because she believes in the power of truth. I couldn't be prouder. My parents have had limited supervised visits with Noah, always in the presence of a court-appointed monitor. The visits are stilted, awkward affairs where they're clearly walking on eggshells. Noah enjoys seeing them, but he no longer begs to stay overnight at their house. He's happier here, more relaxed, more himself. David pays his child support religiously now, his financial records under court scrutiny. He's still with Rebecca, though their relationship is strained. The State Bar Association is still investigating his conduct, and his law practice has lost several high-profile clients. He has weekend visitation with Noah, and they have a good relationship, but the power dynamic has completely shifted. He knows he can't manipulate or intimidate me anymore. I've started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee with a teacher I met at Noah's school. It feels strange, allowing myself to consider what I want instead of what everyone else expects from me. But it's a good kind of strange. The doorbell rings, and I open it to find a delivery person holding a large envelope. My name is printed on expensive stationery that I recognize immediately. My mother's personal stationery, the kind she uses for important correspondence. Inside is a formal invitation to my cousin's wedding next month. Below the printed invitation, in my mother's careful handwriting, is a note. We hope you'll consider attending. It would mean a great deal to the family. I stare at the invitation for a long moment, thinking about the woman I was a year ago. Desperate for their approval, willing to sacrifice my own happiness to maintain their version of family harmony. That woman would have agonized over this decision, would have seen it as an olive branch and a test all at once. The woman I am now tosses the invitation in the recycling bin and goes back to watching my son play. Kristen finds me there an hour later, sitting on the back porch with a cup of tea and a book I'm actually reading for pleasure instead of escape. "What's that smile about?" she asks, settling into the chair beside me. I just realized something. I spent so many years trying to be the daughter my parents wanted, the wife David expected, the perfect mother who never struggled or showed weakness. But the truth is, families aren't built on perfection. They're built on love, loyalty, and the courage to stand up for each other when the world gets dark. I look at her, this incredible young woman who saved us all by refusing to be complicit in their cruelty. You saved us that night, not just by warning me, but by showing me what real family looks like. It's not about money or status or meeting other people's expectations. It's about being willing to risk everything to protect the people you love. Kristen takes my hand, her grip warm and strong. And that's exactly what we did. Noah's laughter carries across the yard as he and his friend discover that their cardboard fort is tall enough to stand in. He looks over at us and waves, his face bright with joy and completely free of the anxiety that used to shadow his eyes. "Yeah," I say, squeezing Kristen's hand. "That's exactly what we did." We walked down the courthouse steps together that day 6 months ago. Mother, daughter, and son. Not the family I had planned, but the family that chose to fight for each other when it mattered most. And in the end, that made all the difference. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Noah comes running across the lawn, grass stains on his knees and dirt under his fingernails, looking exactly like an 8-year-old should look. "Mom, can Jake stay for dinner? We're building a secret hideout and we're not finished." "Of course he can stay." As I watch my children, both of them, I realize that this is what victory looks like. Not a mansion or expensive cars or trust funds, just the freedom to make our own choices, to build our own life, to define family on our own terms. And that's worth more than all the money in the world.